I need a Sean Georges fix. I need to hear Sean talk about servant leadership. So many of us experienced that in our retreat. And I can't think of a time when servant leadership is more important than right now. And what we're trying to do with COVID, and who better to talk about it than Sean. He always talks about, he's got his wonderful day job, but his love and his passion is about teaching and living servant leadership. So Sean Georges, if you are ready, we are ready. Oh, and what we might do too now, we might consider going on mute while he's speaking, so the cat and all that stuff doesn't interrupt him.
That's right. I like cats, so it's good. Listen, just really honored and humbled to be here. I'm sorry this is the first time I've been with you. I'll try to be more regular. What a great thing. Lynn invited me a few days ago, so I've had a little bit of time, not a lot of time, but it's probably appropriate that I didn't have more time to prepare, because it's kind of a sign of where we are now. I've entitled this, our time together. You may be familiar with a novel, a famous novel by Gabriel Garcia Marquez called Love in the Time of Cholera. So I've entitled this Leadership in the Time of COVID. So I don't know, I thought that was witty. Maybe it's not. But I think times...
It was witty, Sean.
Yeah, thank you.
It really was good, yeah.
Times like these are really tests. They're tests of our principles and our beliefs. It's easy to say, I believe in A, B, and C when all is well in the world and things are now, we can look back and, sometimes rather easy and perhaps less challenging. For those of us who are older, we're familiar with times in history. Perhaps I don't quite go back to sort of World War II or the beginning of the 1900s, but we have had trying times before, and we're in one now. From a leadership perspective, I think the principles still apply. I'm going to tell you a couple of stories, one about Shoe Carnival, which you might find interesting. But there is not a day that goes by, and I'm sure it's true for you too, where I'm not doing that mirror check that I talked to you about, where I'm not asking myself the question of what is my best and highest role in support of my team or my family, in alignment with what we're trying to accomplish, our shared purpose, our shared mission. It's a daily and sometimes hourly thing. What's my best and highest role in service of the people around me so that we can accomplish what needs to be accomplished? I think that the people around us are looking for us to lead. And I think that, and these are consistent with the things we've talked about. We talked about that at the retreat, which is going to become the advance, which I love that concept. We're not retreating, we're advancing in unique and different ways. I think, like you, we've all had to be creative. We have also had to, I think, strip ourselves of things that perhaps we thought were true or we thought were important that actually are not. Just a point, if I may, my father passed away, was diagnosed in December and passed at the end of February, and then we rolled right into this pandemic. Someone asked me, how are you doing with that? And quite frankly, I haven't had a chance to grieve, and which is neither here nor there for you. And I'm not asking you to feel sorry for me, but it's, my best and highest role now is to focus on the people around me. Here at Shoe Carnival, the reason why I accepted this invitation is out of an opportunity to serve, a sense that perhaps I could. And I know you are doing many of those things. We are, as servant leaders, we're subordinating some of the things that, that are about us. It's about our teams. It's about our teammates. It is about the people that we deliver whatever we deliver to, our love, our care, our resources, our time, our energy. Now is the time in these just really incredibly challenging times for us to find ways to serve. And I think it's been a time, as I was making the point, of sort of stripping away some of the things that we carry around with us and maybe simplifying and clarifying. One of the things that I've been impressed by as I look around our local community and I guess the world is some of the things that we use to distract ourselves and to stay busy and my God, we were all running at 100 miles an hour in early March. And it seems that the pace of things has changed dramatically. I think this is an opportunity for us individually and us as leaders engaged with the people around us to really take a look at how we're spending our energy, how we're spending our time, what we're actually doing with this life that we have, and exploring ways to get creative, find new ways, resurrect old ways, find ways to be more of service with the people around us. And I found myself personally doing what Lynn challenges us to do at every one of these retreats, which is to analyze what do we want to leave behind and what do we want to take forward. And I think this is, if we can use some of this time as we hopefully come out of this pandemic with a new reality, if we can use this time to take a look and take stock, what do we no longer need to be busy about? What should we be in service of? Who are we serving? What are we serving? And what do we need to do more of? What do we need to leave behind? I know a lot of us are doing that right now, and I challenge you. I think this is a real unique responsibility and opportunity to do that. We've all had to be creative like never before. So I sit here, I'm in my office at Shoe Carnival. Usually there are about 250 people now, of course, leaving the building all at once at 5 o'clock. There have been, over the course of the past month, there are about 5 of us that still come to the office. And so what's going on? People are working remotely now. And, the question is, what does that entail? How do we do that? How do we continue to stay engaged and continue to lead, continue to care for one another, while at the same time being remote? And I read something today. Actually, I saw it. I was casting about on the World Wide Web, and there was a speaker was talking about, the real term isn't remote work; it's distributed working. It's distributed teams. And I thought, that's an interesting approach. But it's, all of us are looking at new ways to get our jobs done, to take care of one another, to be there for one another. And I hope that after we come out of this, kind of like I hope for everyone that attends any one of the Leadership Everyone events, that they come out of it differently. I hope that we allow ourselves the space and the opportunity to transform how we live, transform how we engage. You know, one of the things I did recently, I was watching some kind of a, something like this. You guys are have been doing a lot of this, I know, Zoom or Microsoft Teams, and I was watching this presentation and I was paying attention, like you are, being kind. But I pulled my drawer open, and I've got all of these cards. Remember those cards like that we used to have, this whole stack? Can you see that? And I started thumbing through them. And in the midst of all of these, I found like a handful of people that I really missed, that I hadn't talked to in some time. So as soon as that class was over, I started making phone calls and had some of the greatest, every single person, all I think there were 5 out of those 100 that I desperately wanted to talk to again. And they all answered. And it was all marvelous and wonderful. And I hope we can do things like that in our lives to change the trajectory of whatever that fast path we were on before this whole thing hit. And I don't know if you're like me, but it sometimes felt that that I was on this, on a rail. I was on a train just zipping down the road, and sometimes barely had time to consider and think of things that were truly important. So I hope that we come out of this transformed. I hope that we can use this as an opportunity to really change the way we serve. If you are at all inspired by the concept of servant leadership, I hope you've carried on with that. I challenge you to take it up another notch. And I think one of the things that we've learned, even though we lean on technology, it's still about the human touch. It is still our ability to lead, our ability to influence is still about a connection, even if it comes through Zoom or it comes through a telephone or Microsoft Teams. This is important. That's why I like looking at your faces, because first of all, it's a good-looking bunch, but secondly, it's a reminder that these names are human beings, and they have lives, and I think all of us have an opportunity to touch one another, to impact one another, and to help both encourage and assure that, we're going to get through this. But I hope that we won't. Everybody's talking about, I can't wait to get back to normal. We don't want to get back to normal. We want something better than that. We want a new normal. We want a more engaged normal. Let me tell you a quick story about what happened here at Shoe Carnival and is happening. As we started getting the orders from the federal government and state governments, and this whole thing started just spinning up in March, we made a decision, and it was a decision based on values. We often say, as many do, oh, our people are our most important, asset or resource, or however they say that. Well, the question is, when push comes to shove, is that the case? We made a decision early on that we weren't going to furlough, we weren't going to lay off our employees across the chain. We've got 5,000 employees at 390 stores, a corporate headquarters and distribution center. We were going to try, and it was not going to be without risk. We were going to do everything we could, even after closing all of our stores, 390 stores shut down. We were going to try to keep everyone engaged. We were going to try to keep everyone paid, compensated for whether they, quite frankly, were working or not. It was a risky decision, Maybe it made 0 sense from a business perspective. Our sense was this. First of all, it represented our values. We value the people. We knew that we were going to come out of this. We knew it was going to be a difficult effort. So what we decided to do, since our stores, brick and mortar, are shut down, we were going to pour all of the creativity, all of the marketing, the talent we could into e-commerce. That was going to be our lifeblood that was going to enable us to continue to compensate our employees across the chain until we could come out of this. There was also a business reason to do that. We knew that at some point, and it's happening now, it's unfolding now, states are opening up. We're now at about 71% stores open at some capacity across the country. We knew that we were going to come out of this. And in order to come out of this at a sprint, not sort of stumble, oh, we've got a green light to do business, we need to figure out how to operate in this new environment. We kept people focused on that next chapter, and we were ready. We had our signage ready. We had our stuff ready in our stores. People were trained. They had their masks. We had our temperature thermometers, our infrared thermometers that we purchased and distributed. We're ready to do symptoms checks on our employees before they enter the store every day. Everybody was ready to go. We understood that 6 feet is the thing that we'll never forget ever. That means social distancing. We prepared our people and ourselves to get ready when the light turned green, and we're out there running right now. It was a risky thing to do, and our competitors did not necessarily follow the same path. They're having a very difficult time getting up and running. I'm not being mean to anybody, but I'll tell you a few names. Famous Footwear, DSW. There are some competitors that are now trying to figure out, okay, where is everybody? And we've got to hire people back. And what do we need to do in order to get up and running? And we stayed engaged. Listen, guess what? We could have been wrong. These green lights that are opening that are allowing us to open could have been delayed for months. We would have failed. The effort would have failed, but guess what? We would have been in the same place, right? Just on down the road. This gave us the opportunity. And when you think about leading as a servant, part of that is about risk. It's trying to be intelligent about how you handle risk. You're sometimes going to be wrong. Sometimes you will be right. But one of the things that I tried to communicate to you, and I know that Leadership Everyone and most of you get, is that if you start from that place where you're about serving in the direction of mission, but you don't lose sight of the human beings in line with the mission, you keep them both in sight. It's not just about mission. I mean, if we were trying to make the right business decision, okay, let's see, no dollars in, all dollars are going out except for e-commerce. We go to our CFO and say, hey, do some math. When do we run out of dollars? Well, in this state. Okay, you know what? Let's slow that down. Let's shut everybody off, send them out to unemployment. We could have done that. Financially, that would have made more sense. Much riskier, but in our view, again, as servant leaders, we kept the human beings in line with our vision. And remember my chart where you're at the bottom looking up, and they're the people that you're in relationship with, and then there's mission. It's not either or, it's both. I just thought I would share that with you as sort of a story of at least how one company has handled it. And I'll look forward to hearing from you some of the things you guys have done. A couple of other things. When you are working remotely, as you guys well know, the human connection is so important. And and I'm sure you're doing this, but really stepping out and maintaining the how are you doing? I'm concerned about you individually as a human being, and trying to maintain, keep the communication going, informing. You know, if people are not in this building, for example, they're wondering, what the heck is going on over there? Or what are they thinking? What are they doing? What are the facts? What is happening? So I think in times like these, leaders have an obligation to really lean forward, communicate even more frequently, communicate regularly. Remember that communication is a two-way street. So you can't just be transmitting, sending emails, sending whatever, memo from the CEO, whatever it is. You need to be having real person-to-person communications with your people, find out how they're doing, what's happening with their families, how is their health. These are the facts. This is what we know. This is what we don't know. This is what is in front of us. These are our concerns. All of that, and again, as I look around this group, I'm telling you nothing that you do not know. But I think as leaders, it's really taking to heart and being disciplined about making sure you're doing that as a human being and as a leader and as a teammate. So we've tried to be very visible and we've tried to be really encourage and solidify those two-way communications. So that's a little bit about kind of how we've tried to deal with those. I meet with my team. We do Microsoft Teams. I meet with them every week. Our executives, the 6 senior executives in this company, we are looking at each other every day for at least an hour, talking about issues, talking about those kinds of things as situations unfold. And I mean, it is coming fast and furiously. One day FedEx is not picking up at store. They've instituted a new limitation on how many boxes they're gonna. Where did that come from? Who knows? You know, phone calls start, meetings start. We try to work through those issues. Every single day brings new problems that need to be resolved. One of the things I've tried to do, which is what I've tried to teach you guys, is involve your team in. Don't try to be the answer person. Don't try to be the person with the great ideas and the perfect solutions. Try to help asking the right questions and involve the people around you. You'll be amazed at what you get. I want to tell you one more story. This is so cool. So I'm casting about there on LinkedIn, looking for wisdom and inspiration. I found this story about a former Marine officer. I hadn't met him while I was on active duty, but he left the Marine Corps and served a couple of tours overseas, Afghanistan and Iraq. He then went and got his law degree, and he started a business near St. Louis. And I saw this story about him. I didn't know he was out there, but the story was this. The business he has is one where they create commercial shades. So like shades that go on commercial buildings over windows that help protect the sunlight and things like that. And that's his business. And the story I read was about him finally getting sick and tired of people bemoaning the fact that there aren't enough shields, face shields, there aren't enough, there's not enough PPE out there. There's just, negative, there's not enough of these things. And he finally got tired of it. He brought his team together. And I know this detail because I gave him a call and he shared with me what happened. He said, all right, and it's a small team, it's a small company. And he said, listen, I'm sick and tired of hearing about the energy poured into the negatives here and the problems and the issues. Not what can we do yet, what are we going to do about this? And so there's his team. He's got his IT people, he's got his HR folks, he's got his, distribution people, he's got all of his accountants and all of the people standing around. What are we going to do about it? Anybody got any ideas? Because we will do something about this problem. And he told me that this hand goes up in the crowd, and he points to the guy, and it was this young man who worked in the IT department. And this young man said, well, I've actually got an idea. I've been thinking a little bit about this. What's that? Well, we have all of the materials necessary to construct the face shields that the first responders and some of the medical people need. Been thinking about it. I think we could find out what the specifications are, and I think we could put that thing together. And I think there's a way we can get people lined up and organized in order to start creating those. I mean, his regular business had basically stopped. Within 48 hours, they had put together, consistent with the regulations, a face shield. Within 1 week, they started producing, and they are now one of the largest producers of, the market is there, the need is there, and they just went full bore down this road. And it all started with one person not being satisfied with the status quo, and was willing to lead that team, involve them, engage. It wasn't even his idea. He cast it out there, and his team came up with the idea, and they came up with the plan. And so this really remarkable, magical, real thing happened. And this guy is quite a character, but I think it's a great story, and I hope it is a little bit inspiring for you. I mean, one of the things we tried to do here, we don't actually make these shoes here at Shoe Carnival, but what we do, or what we can do, is create opportunities to engage with first responders, to engage Crocs and Nike in helping to support those events. We shifted our entire marketing budget and all of those assets into support of e-commerce, so that we could create that lifeblood, that e-commerce dollars. Our stores became many distribution centers supporting e-commerce. We now have 390 of them instead of one here in Evansville. Every day, all they would do, they would go in and they would fulfill e-commerce orders and ship them. So this ability to be nimble and to involve your people, and to lead from the front, and also from love the cat, lead as a servant, looking up, what do they need? So we know that it works. We know that it's not easy. Your job then is to make sure you're taking care of your people along the way. We've got people who are scared, people who are frightened of uncertainty. They are afraid of what's happening in the future. They're afraid of their own well-being. We have to pay attention to that. We have to be respectful of that. We have to help them to see what the future can look like. And listen, one of the things we know about leadership is that it's got to be both grounded in reality. So we can't pretend that we're in Disney World. I don't even know if it's open yet. But we have got to be grounded in reality, but ultimately optimistic that we're going to get through this. Your teams, your teammates, people around you that you are affecting are looking to you for hope. They're looking for you to engage them. People want to be a part of the solution. And I think that's our real opportunity as servant leaders. So